Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about software engineering. Imagine that. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, I feel tired, scared, and frustrated over my job as a software engineer. The hours are bad, the pay is sort of okay, and the work is really demanding. What should I do? Well, I would say quit or get better at what you do. Those are your best options, I would say. So basically, what you're describing here is that's the dark side. That is the that is the inconvenient truth of software engineering and development. Because the thing is that when you start on this journey, you usually hear about the money, the job security, and all the perks, and then you go and make that fatal mistake that you should never do, and you watch the infomercials or promo videos for Google's offices or Facebook or what doesn't really matter. And that's great. That's great. And then you get sold this idea that it's all rainbows and unicorns and everything is so nice. What they don't tell you is that the vast majority of developers, well, uh, these sorts of things are very nice, but having a good work-life balance is actually a bit of a struggle for quite a lot of developers, especially in the beginning, because getting all these perks, it comes with a price tag. Nothing is free. You have no free lunch. I'm sorry to say that. And that price tag is measured by either how skilled you are, or how much you put in to the company. And in some cases, they are people that you work for are completely unreasonable, and they expect you to not only because they can't effectively evaluate how valuable you actually are, so they will force you to, even though you're like the best thing ever that happened to their company, they're still gonna make you work extra hours and put in extra effort because they simply can't run their company in any other way, or they want to see. That's also fun when you're dealing with fresh founders. They want every single person who works for them to show the same level of enthusiasm for their little startup as them. The only thing that they seem to be forgetting is that if they sell the company, and after it's a big success, after you put in hundreds and thousands of hours, uh, they will bank out at several millions if everything goes well. And uh, you're just gonna have to find another job. It's not really the same level of investment. And at the same time, if the company goes over, you get another job, and they might go bankrupt. Uh, Different incentive systems, I would say. But if you feel this way, I really, as I was saying, like you only, to me, it sounds more like one part is absolutely that you could definitely uh, be in a situation where like you don't really like this sort of job, like you've realized that it is not what you expected and you might just want to quit, and you can absolutely do that. There's many options in terms of professions and careers that you can pursue apart from software engineering. Another thing though that I would like you to consider is the thing that I was saying, like get better at what you do, because the thing is, if you're saying like the hours are bad, that tells me that you're working overtime, or like you're inconsistent. Like if you're not doing the daily normal 9 to 5 type of grind, you are working extra for quite a lot. And there's only two people in software development that does that: the on-call people and the people who have no backbone. Those are the only two people usually. Because if you're in a situation, and I see this all the time, some developers, they are very insecure about themselves, and so whenever they feel emotionally as if they're a little bit behind schedule or like so forth, they will always work overtime, or they will make it a rule to work overtime because they're junior and they think that they have to prove themselves, etc., etc. And all I can say is that that's really nice, and that shows you a lot of work ethics and so forth, but at the same time you're creating a situation that is unsustainable for you, because what you're actually doing is that you're now getting paid less. You're working more, and that's great. And if there is some carrot for working extra hours and so forth, just go for it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't put in the extra effort. Go the extra mile if you think that there is something that is valuable to you. But if you're doing it and it's killing you, you have to say, no, this is not actually for me. And that is okay. And sure, you might get punished for it, and sure, people might go and ask you, why aren't you working extra time? And now here comes the question: do you have the backbone to say, well, technically, I'm paid to work these hours, and I'm very willing and open to go the extra mile and like do some overtime if the company really needs it. But doing this all the time is too much for me. I can't deal with it. And that is a very reasonable thing for you to say. And sure, as I said, you might have to live with the consequences of such a choice, but you can make that choice. And there are many companies out there, I promise you, that are completely fine with that you work normal hours because they are sustainable. It's not required of you to work overtime all the time. In terms of the work is demanding, it comes down to the skill thing. The work is really only demanding if you are either, as I was saying, like if you have expectations on you that are fairly unreasonable, or if you are unskilled, or you have problems keeping up with the workload, or you have problems producing results. And usually you can, there's two ways to solve that problem. Either you decrease the demand of the work that you're dealing with, or you grow so strong and so proficient as a software developer that it doesn't really affect you. I mean, 100 kilos is a lot of weight for someone who is very, very unfit, but someone who is like super, super strong doesn't really matter. It's the same weight, but they're so fit that it doesn't matter. And I think that you should approach this the same sort of way. Really ask yourself whether or not if you're in the start of your career and you're like working as a junior developer, you should know that these things are fairly common, but it does get better when you get to be a little bit more experienced. Usually you don't struggle as much with all of the anxieties and all of the frustration and like the demand of the job and so forth, because you can just consistently produce. You go from looking things up every 5 minutes and like having a lot of issues just producing results to just kind of doing the same thing you've been doing for quite some time and just consistently producing and producing and producing. It's something worth thinking about if you are actually in the earlier stages of your career. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you are feeling scared, frustrated, and feel like you're working overtime all the time and the work is very demanding, you might be experiencing a wake-up, which is that software engineering, although there's a lot of perks to it, is not just fun all the time. There's a lot of other things, like there's a dark side to it, and these are some of the things that you deal with as a software developer, and the work might not be for you, so you can absolutely quit. Another thing to consider is that if you're consistently working overtime and so forth, you might be finding yourself in a bad company, and you can switch jobs, or you can grow a backbone and actually say that, I don't want to be in a position where I'm forced to work overtime all the time. I need some me time. I need to be able to actually go home on normal hours and live a life outside of my company. There might be consequences from making such a choice, but you can make it, and I promise you there are companies who will accept that and respect that. Lastly, if it is the case that you might be a junior developer, you should know that things are usually a bit rougher on you in the beginning of things, because you simply don't have the experience to know how to maneuver in your environment as well as someone who's been working for a while. And that goes away with time. So you could maybe stick it out for a little while and see if things improve, but always remember that there's no shame in saying that, you know what? This is not for me. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to be a barber, or I'm going to be an architect. I'm going to be something else. I'm going to do something with music. There are many fulfilling careers that you can go for that might be something that you actually enjoy. Have a great day.